continuar.
Okay, so now let's move on to the last presentation of this afternoon workshop roundtable. We have Joaquin Fonoll, who's going to do his presentation, Educational Work in the Computer for Students with Disabilities through Physical Objects Applying RFID Technology. I'm not sure if the video colleagues need to modify anything so that he can use his own computer.
Porque si cambiamos, yo quería cambiar el ordenador, pero si cambiamos el ordenador nos vamos a quedar sin público. Por lo tanto, más.
I was going to change the computer, but I think if I change the computer, all the audience will go. So it's better to do this with audience than without audience, so let's just not bother with my computer. Let's try and see if I can do a demonstration. What are we talking about? What are we trying to talk about? Well, first of all, I would like to thank the invitation to come here and the fact that you're still here. And I would also like to thank Silvia, Maria and Teresa, two colleagues from the ONCE in Barcelona, because they really have worked on this issue, looking at all the practical solutions. Okay. The idea is to work with real objects in the computer, so that the same object that the child has on the table, that this object can also be an object that can be recognized by the computer. And why? Because normally we think about a computer something like this, a device with a screen, keyboard, mouse, and when we have this preconceived idea, we are conditioning about how we should work with the hands, with the side, how we text, etc., anything that may come out on screen. And this leaves many people out or aside, and also some content aside, because there are some users who cannot work with this paradigm, nor the screen, nor the keyboard, nor the traditional mouse. And also these users, some of these users have to work with content that cannot be shown on the screen. And the work that we have carried out in, I think he said, optical knowledge cannot be shown on the computer. And the video games showed us that we can work in a different manner, such as, for instance, the Wii console. But the problem with video games is that these are closed environments, closed machines in which we cannot intervene, that we cannot customize, and that we cannot adapt. And that's why for a while now we are working on a series of technologies that enable us to work with in the same format as video games in a conventional computer, so that the teacher can include its own teaching materials and to adapt it to different uses. We started in '85, but we're in 2010, and we are now working with the RFID technology. And this RFID technology allows us to work with real objects. And why working with real objects? Well, first of all, because anything that is on the computer screen, any object that has been digitalized has lost information, important information in many cases. An apple on the computer screen has very little to do with a real apple in our hands. Secondly, because for some users, introducing a new device, a new peripheral, it's always something complicated. For instance, learning to use the mouse or a keyboard. Anything like that is an extra complication. In fact, in this picture, a child that was not able to use a push button to work with the toy, he could use the toy as if it was a spoon, and because he knew how to use a spoon. She understood this. And also the most important thing is that there is certain content that do not fit in the computer. They cannot be put in the computer. For instance, blind people use models a lot in order to recognize objects, to know how they are, what they are like, etc. And this work with models, this touch work, cannot be done with a computer, or could not be done with a computer. And this work is also basic in order to learn also Braille. As has been said before, Braille, if we don't start from a very early age, is very difficult in the future because we have not done all the work needed in order to be able to work with it. And so our intention was to work with real objects. And luckily, in the current world, we have many labeled real objects, for instance, in the ATM machines or cash machines. There are different technologies, the barcode, the QR code, and the RFID codes. The barcode is the one that you all know. The problem with the barcode is that it has to be positioned on the reader in a very specific manner. And and also they're very expensive. You know, a barcode reader is more expensive than a computer. So it's difficult to have in a normal school. The QR code, which is quite recent, is cheaper. It can be read with a webcam, with a printer, but it has certain problems for the blind people, and is that they have to be positioned correctly. The code has to be positioned correctly in front of the reader, and also it distorts the object. The QR code has to be glued on the object, and given that it has to be glued on the object, this object no longer is what it was, it's something else. And then we have the RFID code, which is a code which is also widely used. It's labels used for many things, to tag animals, for documents. The car keys, when you press the car key, this is the key is having like a dialogue with the car. So this is a very well-known technology, very well extended, reasonably well priced, and this is another one of the good things, is that this technology is also hidden inside the object, so that the label is invisible for the user. And also, it's a wireless technology, and so you only need to bring the object close to the reader for it to read. It doesn't need to be in a specific position. Any position is good. So how does this work? Well, we have certain labels or tags. They have a single code, a unique code. There is a reader. When you bring it close to the reader reads it, transmits it to the PC, and then in the PC you give it whatever meaning you want.